Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to be going through the 14 palettes that I purchased in 2022. It would have been 12, but Pat McGrath got me at the end of the year. I am coming to you today in a t-shirt and hair that is desperately in need of a wash, but I am trying to film some videos in between some appointments today. So without further ado, and forgiving my hair and the t-shirt, let's go ahead and get into it. I was thinking about filming the palettes in order that they were purchased, but I have brands that are kind of scattered throughout the year. So instead, I'm just going to collect them together by brand. So I do have a couple brands that I only purchased one palette from. So first off, we have the Huda Beauty Mercury Retrograde palette. It is absolutely beautiful, very reflective, so I'm going to try not to blind you guys, but I picked this up whenever it went on sale at Sephora, and so this is the color story. Absolutely gorgeous. I love all of these. I'm not the biggest fan of putting blue on my eyes, and so these over here probably won't get a whole lot of use from me, but otherwise I absolutely love this. I love whenever my roulette wheel rolls this in for my eyeshadow for the day, and I really hope to get more use on this in the upcoming year. Then the other brand that I only purchased one palette from would be Urban Decay, and this is the Naked Wild West. This is what the color story looks like in here. I still have the brush in there, so I don't want to drop the brush out. This is very similar to what is in the Natasha Denona Zendo, but ever since this palette came out, I was very, very interested in the color story. So when this went 50% off later last year, like around Black Friday, I did go ahead and pick this up. I think it still is on sale on Urban Decay's website. I think it did sell out on Sephora. All the links to these palettes, if they are still in stock or still being made, I'm going to have all of the links down in the description box. Now the brands that I purchased multiple palettes from. Let's do ColourPop. So the first one that I purchased was Sweet as Can Be, which was the collaboration with Winnie the Pooh. This is what the inside of this one looks like with the honeycomb shaped pans in here. This is so pretty and so cute. I have these colors other places in my collection, but I could not pass up a Winnie the Pooh palette. This is very reminiscent of my childhood. My mom used to read me Winnie the Pooh stories all the time growing up. And actually, one of the nicknames that I had growing up was Piglet because I am only 5'1", so I am very short. So this kind of had my heart, and I love having the palette in my collection. Also, if you realize that my voice is a little bit off, I'm trying to get over having a little bit of a sinus infection. I also do have a mic coming in the mail in the next couple days, so I hope to work on the audio quality of my videos. And so I just wanted to warn you up front, if my voice starts to break or it's a little bit deeper today, it's because I'm fighting off being sick. So next from ColourPop, I was trying to fight off the urge to add the Natasha Denona pastel palette to my collection. So I did pick up In a Trance from ColourPop. This is one of their pastel palettes, and it does have blues, purples, and pinks. I did take out the glitter shade that was in the center. I'm not a really big fan of ColourPop's pressed glitters, and I did repress a shadow in here that is kind of that like blue, brown, green shifty shade. I think what's similar to this is like Glass Bowl from ColourPop, but I did go ahead and I repressed a different shade into this palette to kind of make it work for me, and I also use another shade from another part of my collection. Lastly, from ColourPop, I did pick up the C-3PO palette. That is a collaboration with Star Wars. I have the Child palette and the Mandalorian palette. I did not pick up the Darth Vader palette because I would literally be purchasing it for merch. I would not use those shades. And then again, the larger Star Wars palette had a lot of blues in it, which again is not kind of my taste for my eyeshadows. So instead of just buying them as merch because I am a Star Wars lover, I don't think it's out of frame, but up there I have some like Funko Pops from Star Wars. I have a replica of Palpatine's lightsaber. My husband is a huge Star Wars nerd, so we have Star Wars all over the house. So I could pick those up as merch, but also makeup goes bad and it's not something I feel like I need, but I absolutely loved the like golden neutrals that were in this palette. And so I did pick up the C3PO, and I feel like if ColourPop came out with an R2-D2 palette, even though it would have blues in it, these 9 pans that are a little bit more curated, I probably would buy the R2-D2 one. Next, we have palettes from Letal Cosmetics. I decided to dip my toe into some indie brands, and I do want to explore more indie brands in 2023, but I figure I would start with Letal, and this is the Night Flower palette. And so this is in one of their like customizable packaging, but this is a palette that they have curated and you can buy this as a bundle. So just beautiful purples and pinks and blues, and I absolutely love this. I actually did a look with this blue the other day and my husband really liked it. He complimented my eyeshadow. So I'm trying to get a little bit more and dip my toe into blues, especially with these two here in the palette, but otherwise I love this color story. I love purples on me, so I hope to get a lot of use out of this, and I've been really, really impressed with Letal's formula, especially with their like duochromes, their really shiny metallics, their multi-chromes, and that brings me to a custom palette that I made with Letal. So I picked out my own shades, I curated my own palette. With this, I have a link in the description to this actual palette on their palette designer. And then I have all of the shades that I have in here. I have them listed in the description box as well. So this is the custom palette that I made for myself. Again, I love purples and greens, and this just has my heart. I have, how many? I think I have 3 duochromes in here, but this shade over here is what I have tapped on top of this look, and this look came from another palette that we'll talk about, but I did take this and kind of just tap it over the top just to give it a little bit more dimension. But I already have another palette designed within Letal that kind of dupes the Melt Cosmetics, the Earth palette, the like Bad Zodiac. I posted on my Instagram that I heard some questionable things about Melt's quality and the longevity of their shadows. So I did make my own palette on Letal that kind of dupes that palette, but I anticipate that Letal would have better quality shadows and just more impactful shadows, because these are just, the shimmers feel like absolute butter. Like, those are gorgeous. Now I'm going to have to get my washcloth to wash my hand off, but those are absolutely gorgeous. Let me see if I can swatch. I mean, beautiful, beautiful shades. You can see the shift on that bottom one, and I think on this one up here. But let me wipe my hands off real quick, and then we'll move on to the next stack. Those swatches are going to just stay on my arm, so if you see them come in and out of frame, that's what's going to be on my arm. Let's go into the next brand that I only have 3 palettes from. So that would be Pat McGrath. I did pick up the first Bridgerton palette. This is the Mothership Diamond of the First Water. I didn't get this in the first release, but then she released a second batch of these and I picked them up. I kind of had like FOMO, you know, with this, but I did really, really like these. I'm a little bit disappointed that, let me try not to blend, that these 2 shades here are so similar. I know a couple people have had reactions to the red pigments in here. That's not been my experience. Really, this blue shade here is going to be your special shade, and it is a little bit more of a topper, and so you can build it up. And let me see if I can swatch it back over here. So it's sparkly, but it's not that impactful. So with this, use a glitter glue if you have this, if you're interested in picking this up, even though I couldn't find it on our site. So I think that this whole collection has been discontinued, but I am happy to have this palette in my collection. Next, because I continue to be a sucker for Star Wars, I did pick up I have a grumpy, sleepy puppy dog down there. I did pick up the Darth Vader palette from the most recent Pat McGrath and Star Wars collab. This is a all shimmer palette. The shades are a little bit dark, but they are very impactful. I've used 2 of the shades out of here so far. I could have used this dark green in my look today. I mean, just look at that pigmentation. Again, I'm running out of room to swatch, but I'm sorry for flicking you guys off. But my goodness, that is stunning. So this is a little bit of a darker palette, but again, it's Darth Vader, so I would expect it to be a little bit darker, but I am just thrilled to have this. I almost went back onto her site and picked up the R2-D2 one, but I talked myself out of it. I already have kind of that sparkly blue shade in the Bridgerton, and again, I'm going to kind of hold out on ColourPop coming out with an R2-D2 palette just so I can kind of like round out the gang in my collection, but I am thrilled to have this. I know a lot of people are disappointed in the packaging. It is what it is. I've come to terms with the fact that if I'm going to be buying high-end makeup products, that really I'm buying it for the products. And while it's like cool to have Darth Vader on this, and that kind of did draw me to purchasing this, I am more impressed with the fact that the shadows on the inside are going to look beautiful. That is what I spent my money on. The fact that it has Darth Vader on it, just icing on the cake. My husband just came down to get a snack and some water, so I paused for a moment, but I was going to talk about the last Pat McGrath palette that I did pick up this year. So she was having a 40% off sale, end of year sale for all of her palettes, except for the like new Star Wars ones that were out. Those were still full price, but I did pick up the Mothership, and God, look at the fingerprints already. But this is the Mothership 9. This is the Utopian Dreams palette. And this is what the inside of this one looks like. And this is beautiful. This color story is very much right up my alley. I love kind of like dusty pinks, and I love this shade right here. It did have a purple and just some like really special shades. I love a gold all over my eyes. It makes my like greenish blue eyes pop. So I kind of felt like this was a good chance for me to have an introduction into the Mothership palettes. Now, this has a little bit more kick up in the mattes than I expected, but at least it makes the mattes very blendable. So I'm not disappointed in the quality. Again, these special shades, they are more like toppers. And so you're gonna get, they're flaking up. So they're very flaky. They're that very, very flaky formula. So again, I think that, you know, we're looking at these compared to, I swatched them right there. So they don't have a whole lot of base pigment, not a whole lot of impact, but they're beautiful tapped over the lid. They're beautiful kind of like wiped on over a glitter primer. So these are not going to hold up against other indie shadows that I've seen swatches of online. But for me to experience having a Pat McGrath palette, a Mothership palette, I kind of wanted to take that opportunity during the sale to pick one up that I've had my eye on. And again, I've used this 3 or 4 times, and I've liked the look that I've gotten every single time. So I'm not disappointed in being able to pick this up for 40% off. The last 4 palettes are all Natasha Denona. So I have come to terms with the fact that I am going to be a collector of Natasha Denona MIDI palettes. So pretty much any midi palette that she's going to come out with, I am 99% I'm going to purchase it. I don't know if I just have a collector's mentality, if I kind of feel like I could get rid of the rest of my eyeshadow collection and just keep my Natasha Denona and still be satisfied with the color range. But that is the kind of realization I've come to terms with myself. So this year, even though I picked up the In a Trance with the hopes to not be drawn in by the pastel palette, again, the collector's mentality in my head kind of clicked. And so I did pick up the pastel palette. So I don't pull off my films, and I probably won't do it on camera, even though it's very satisfying. I don't use the mirrors in my palettes, so I just leave them on there to keep everything clean. But this is the color story that we're looking at with the pastel. Again, this is not going to be an everyday like color story for me, but it is extremely fun to dip into it. I kind of want to think about doing a project of like a no pan left behind with my Natasha Denona palettes, just to force me to use every single shade in the pan. So if I decide to do that, look out for updates on my channel, but this is the pastel palette. Now, I don't have any interest in picking up the mini pastel. That like really bright Kelly green is just not my thing. So I can pass over the 5-pan and midi palettes very quickly. But the mid-size ones, it's like my kryptonite. So I did also pick up the Retro Glam palette, and this is actually the palette that has the base shadows for my look today. So this is what I used for my look. This is the shade that is all over my lid, and then I tap the Lethal Cosmetic shade over top of it. But this does turn very cool and very kind of ashy, even on my skin tone. So I did go in with a little bit warmer of a shade and kind of warm up the edges and warm up, you know, the outer V a little bit. But overall, I do enjoy this color story. The mattes are not my favorite, but these shimmers all over the lid, every single one of them, this is my jam. Then there is the Natasha Denona My Dream palette. This is also kind of like my dream color story. So I love the warm tones. I love the golds. I love the rose golds. I love the like plummy purples and burgundies. This is also my dream palette. Now I will never use that black ever. So, I mean, maybe for liner, maybe, but I have other black liners that I'm trying to go through. So a black shadow doesn't really serve a purpose for me, but I understand why it is in a palette, especially because she has not had a black in another midi-size palette before. So this is also my dream color story. So I absolutely love this one. Again, I want to get more use out of it. I have not used every shade in here, but this duochrome down here, I did, it's like a pink to green. I did wear this on Christmas because again, pink to green. And so it's looking very green there. You might be able to see the pink and a little bit of gold in there, but I love that shadow all over the lid. Absolutely love it. The last Natasha Denona palette that I picked up is the Metropolis, and this went out of stock. She discontinued it for a little while, and I really thought on it for a very long time about how I felt that I really loved this palette, but I couldn't spend $129 on it. So when it came back into stock, when she restocked it on her website, and then I ended up with a coupon code. So I did end up picking up this palette. I kind of want to cut the plastic film out of here. I don't know how you guys feel about that. Kind of comment down below if you're the type of person that cuts the name film out of your palettes. I mean, I'm not ever going to try to resell these, so I don't really care if it doesn't have this. But tell me how you guys feel about that. But again, I love this color story. The greens, the golds, the warm tones, the blues. Again, I'm not sure I'm going to get a whole lot of use out of the blues, maybe as an accent, but this color story is just gorgeous. And again, I love that you can pop these shades out, you can rearrange them. So this like pan size of Natasha Denona, I absolutely love. And again, all of the MIDI palettes will end up being mine. I currently do have all of them in my collection. I am interested to see what she's going to release in February. Right now in January, I am on a no-buy month except for replacement items if I run out of skincare and that kind of thing. But for right now, in all of January, I am not purchasing any palettes. So I'm interested to see what will come out for Valentine's Day for Natasha Denona. You guys can probably tell that my voice is starting to go, and I do need to film another video today. But thank you for sticking around and for watching the video of my 14 palettes that I brought in 2022. Did you pick up any of these palettes? What indie brands would you recommend I try in 2023? I'm really excited about dipping my toe more into some indie brands. Leave me a comment down below, do some thumbs up, subscribe for more content. I have some stuff kind of rolling out for the end of the month and into February, so stick around for that. But otherwise, I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you next time.